Hi, my name is Christine Raven, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker in the state of Illinois, and I'm coming to you from the comfort of my own home as I adhere to some of the restrictions put in place by our governor to self-isolate. I've been talking to you guys this week about anxiety and worrisome thoughts and how that can increase in light of some of the circumstances going on around us. And so what I've been wanting to do is give you guys multiple tools that you can use to try and challenge and combat some of these thoughts that might happen as you ruminate in self-isolation. And so tonight I want to talk to you a little bit about what we call the cognitive triangle. This is a tool that we use a lot in therapy to help individuals realize how our thoughts are correlated to how we feel, as well as how we behave. So using the current situation as an example, some of the thoughts that we might have could be, the world is coming to an end. Now keep in mind these thoughts can be rational or irrational in nature. They can be factual, or they can also be distorted. It does not matter whether or not that thought is 100% true. It just matters whether or not you think it, because that's going to determine how you feel as well as how you behave. So using this thought as an example, the world is coming to an end. Some feelings that you might feel: panic, anxiety, and worry. Some behaviors that you might see from an individual who's thinking this thought may be hoarding, because if I think that the world is coming to an end, I'm going to do everything in my power to combat some of those negative consequences that come with not being prepared for the end of the world. Okay, you might see other behaviors too associated with that thought, but that's a really good example of what you might see happening now. We can change this up and see how everything is different if we take a different point of view or we think a different thought. For instance, we could think everything will be okay. We have the mindset of everything's going to be okay. This is temporary. Some of the feelings we might have is calmness and maybe even feeling content. Some of the behaviors you might see from somebody who has this thought and feels calm and content is that you might see them going about their lives as normally as possible, considering they're self-isolating. Okay, you might see these people being the ones smiling. You might see these people being the ones who are reassuring others. Okay, so you can see how different thoughts can cause different feelings, which can also cause different behaviors in individuals. You can use this triangle both for yourself and for your child to try and figure out how their thinking in this current situation is affecting how they're feeling, as well as some of the behaviors that they might have. Now, one of the toolkits that I use when it comes to thoughts in my practice is what I like to call putting your thoughts on trial. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I fall into that stereotype of being a female who likes to watch the ID channel and see all of those criminal shows and everything. And so I kind of took that concept and put it into my practice of how we can kind of be our own little private investigators with our thoughts. And so how this works is you can take a thought that you might be having at the very current moment. An example might be everything is fine. Now, when you put a thought on trial, you always have, you know, something that is for that thought or something that is against it. You know, in a courtroom, we always have a defendant and a plaintiff. One is always trying to say how that person's guilty, the other one's trying to defend them and say, no, they didn't do it. The same concept goes for this skill set. So everything is fine. What are the different evidence that you might have to say that everything is fine? We might say that people are helping. You know, we have our doctors, our nurses, we have all of these people who are prepared and who are working day in and day out to make sure that we are safe. We also have different officials talking to us every day, giving us updates, stating, you know, okay, we're starting to see those numbers get a little bit lower than what they could be if we weren't self-isolating. Some of the things that are against it, everything is fine. Can you come up with something? You might be able to, you might not be able to. If more of your evidence is for it than against it, then it's safe to say that this idea is a good one. This is an idea that is factual or an idea that you can kind of get behind. Another one that you might think, you know, using the same example that we used previous, is the world is coming to an end. What's the evidence for it? You know, what is the evidence against it? And try to challenge these thoughts. And challenging these thoughts in a way that you are keeping an open mind and it's not just one-sided. A way that you can get your children to get in on the action here, and it's a creative way that I came up with, considering that we're all self-isolating, and so you can kind of have your children become the Sherlock Holmes of your house. And so a really creative way of doing this is having your children write down a bunch of different thoughts that they might be having about the situation at hand, and putting them all on different pieces of paper, cutting those pieces of paper out, and you get to hide them throughout the house. And now they are becoming the detective. And you tell them, okay, I've hidden 10 pieces of paper that have your thoughts on them throughout the house. It's your turn to go and find them. And so the kids are getting up in the home and they are finding these pieces of paper, and it's a very interactive way of them, you know, feeling like they're a part of the therapeutic process. And so once they find those, you know, pieces of paper and they bring them back to you, you guys then get to figure out which thought is guilty and which thought isn't. And you do that by talking amongst yourselves, you know, and saying, well, why do you think this? What evidence suggests that this is factual? What evidence says it's not? And it's a really good way for you and your children both to figure out what thoughts they are having right now, and teaching them the skills that they need to challenge these thoughts, you know, to see, okay, there's not very much evidence that suggests that this is going to happen, or there's not a lot of evidence that suggests that that's not going to happen. And so trying really hard to challenge those thoughts as they come will help you in reducing them. They'll help you in seeing when you might be thinking irrationally, or you might be having thoughts that aren't very factual. But you also have to keep in mind that you need to check in on yourself every now and then to see what thought is going through your head. This is something that sounds extremely easy, but it's very hard to put into play because our thoughts occur just like our breathing. We don't tell ourselves to inhale or exhale every single second of the day. They just, you know, our body does it naturally. So our thoughts are kind of the same. They just pop in. Sometimes we're in tune to what we're thinking, sometimes we're not. So take moments throughout the day to try and check in on how you're thinking. You know, keep a thought log. On the previous video, I told you about how to keep track of those worrisome thoughts using a worry jar. You can also write your thoughts down on a log, and during that worrisome time, challenge those thoughts. What is the evidence that suggests that what you're thinking is true? What is the evidence that suggests what you're thinking isn't true? I hope that this helped. If you have any additional questions, do not hesitate to reach out to me, as I understand that it is very hard to try and talk about these concepts with only one person. So if you have questions, comments, anything, let me know. I'll do my best from my social distance to help you better understand and how to put those into play. I hope all of you are having a wonderful time enjoying your families. I hope all of you are, really getting to connect better with one another. Even though we're social distancing, doesn't mean that we can't still be social. We just have to get more creative. Thank you.